In the distance, low voices rise and fall in harmony with birdsong. A faint rhythm of sandals brushing over the dry earth follows. Small groups of villagers move slowly between the rows of tall emmer wheat, their linen garments fluttering in the warm breeze.
Each stalk stands about waist high, strong and golden, swaying just slightly with the air. The heads of grain are heavy, bowed like the heads of elderly men. Women with sun-darkened arms gently gather them in bundles, their fingers trained by years of repetition. The same movement, again and again. Gather, bind, rest the bundle on the hip. There is no rush, only the calm insistence of time moving forward. In the shade of a date palm at the edge of the field, a child hums softly. Her task is to keep the twine wet. She dips it into a nearby clay jar of water and hands the moist fibers to her mother, who uses it to tie up the sheaves of grain. The knots are simple and loose, just enough to keep each bundle together as they are set down in neat rows across the sun-hardened ground. Somewhere nearby, a soft creak breaks the stillness. A simple wooden cart, wheels thick with dust, is slowly rolled across the field. An older man in a broad straw hat collects the bundles, stacking them carefully so the grain heads do not snap. He works slowly, wiping his brow from time to time, smiling faintly as he surveys the work. The entire community takes part. No one shouts. There's no harsh command, only the quiet sound of a village working as one. Birds flutter overhead, ibises and hoopoes flashing white against the bright sky. They peck and stir among the harvest, hoping for stray seeds. The Nile is just visible in the far distance, a thin blue ribbon cutting through the dusty horizon. It has already given its gift, flooding the land with fertile silt months earlier, retreating like a guest who has stayed just long enough. Now, the people return the favor by drawing life from the land. Wheat, lentils, onions, but especially the wheat, which will become bread, the heart of every meal. Once enough bundles have been gathered, the group makes its way back to the village's open courtyard. It is shaded by a simple thatched awning. The ground is flat and well-worn from centuries of feet and hooves. In the center of the courtyard lies a large mat made from woven reeds. On it, the bundles are laid in thick rows, the golden stalks shining gently in the late morning sun. Then comes the next part, threshing. Cattle are led forward, calm, placid animals with large eyes and slow steps. A boy holds a rope tied gently to the lead cow's neck. He says nothing, just guides them with the lightest touch. The animals walk in slow circles over the mat. Their hooves crunch softly on the grain. Each step loosens more kernels from the heads. Each pass brings the harvest closer to its transformation. The air fills with a gentle scent, straw, dust, and something earthy and sweet. It is not a quick process. The cattle must walk for hours, their hooves acting as tools. Occasionally, a man with a wide broom made of palm fronds pushes the grain around, spreading it evenly to be threshed again. Every movement is soft, unhurried, rhythmic. After a time, the mat is lifted, and the broken stalks are carried away. They will be fed to animals or used for fuel. What remains are the heavier grains, resting in small piles of gold and bronze. The people do not cheer. There is no finality, only the feeling of one task leading quietly into the next. As midday approaches, the sun reaches its highest point. A hush falls over the courtyard. Most villagers retreat indoors. They sit on cool stone floors, sharing dates and water, speaking little. Outside, the grain waits patiently. In the afternoon, the winnowing begins. But that is for later. For now, let us rest in this moment. The moment after the stalks have bowed, after the cattle have passed, when the work is neither beginning nor complete, simply ongoing. In ancient Egypt, life moves with the seasons. No clock ticks, no alarm sounds, only the soft rhythm of harvest, breath, and earth. The courtyard still holds the warmth of the afternoon sun, but now shadows grow longer, stretching quietly across the dust and stone. The people have returned, slowly, calmly, to continue the work. In one corner of the yard, small woven baskets are arranged neatly in a row. Each is filled with threshed grain, but still mixed with light, feathery husks, the chaff. These husks are weightless things, pale, like paper, and useless for food. And so they must be separated from the golden seeds. The Egyptians, with their practiced simplicity, use the oldest of tools, air. Winnowing begins not with fanfare, but with silence. A young man, maybe 20 years old, takes a flat, wide basket in both hands. He crouches slightly, scoops into the mixed pile of grain and husk, then slowly rises. The basket is not too full. The load is light. He turns gently to face the breeze. In ancient Egypt, the winds come from the north, cool and predictable. It is not a strong wind, just enough to lift the chaff while letting the heavier grains fall. It is a soft wind, a whisper. With one smooth motion, the man tosses the grain upward, not high, just enough. The golden kernels arc gently through the air, then fall back into the basket or onto the mat. The chaff, lifted by the breeze, floats away, like drifting feathers or the breath of a reed flute. This act is repeated again and again. Scoop, rise, toss. The rhythm is gentle, like the beat of a distant drum muffled in fabric. The movement is not hurried, for the work is not just physical, it is almost meditative. Time slows with each toss. The man's eyes follow the floating husks, watching them disappear into the air like thoughts released from memory. Elsewhere in the courtyard, another woman begins her part of the task. She kneels beside a low table, made of packed earth and stone, where she begins sorting by hand. Her fingers are slender and dusted with flour. Carefully, she runs her fingertips through a mound of grain, feeling for tiny pebbles, bits of husk, or errant stalk. She does not need to look. Her hands know the difference between seed and straw, between wheat and stone. She picks out the unwanted pieces and places them in a small bowl at her side. The bowl will be emptied later, the refuse scattered for the birds who wait quietly along the roofline. They know this work too. They've watched it every season. Their patience is endless. As the sun begins to lower, the air takes on a coolness. The sky softens into hues of pale amber and rose. The breeze continues, steady and faithful, guiding the winnowed chaff out over the rooftops and into the quiet fields beyond. Older women, seated in the shade, chat softly as they inspect the cleaned grain. Their voices are low, worn smooth by years of repetition. They speak of nothing urgent, of family, of bread, of whether the jars will hold enough for winter. Nearby, a boy hums as he carries an empty basket to be filled again. His feet are bare. He walks softly on the warm ground, the dust rising slightly in his path. Grain, the same grain that will soon be flour, then dough, then bread, glows in the last light of day. The color is warm, like honey. The seeds are small, oval-shaped, and perfect in their sameness. Each kernel, once hidden within a stalk, has now been revealed. there is no great moment of triumph, no applause, just quiet progress. The courtyard floor is swept gently with palm frond brushes. The last of the chaff is blown aside or gathered up. Clay jars, tall and cool to the touch, are brought out from the storage hut. Lined with linen and marked with painted signs, they are filled slowly with the sorted grain. The sound of grain pouring into jars is one of the most soothing in this world. A soft hiss, like sand slipping into an hourglass. A quiet cascade. Over and over again, the people move with unspoken coordination. A glance here, a nod there. No one leads. No one hurries. It is the way it has always been. And when the last basket is empty and the final jar sealed, the courtyard is washed with silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of completion. Torches are lit. Simple oil lamps that flicker in the dusk. Their flames sway in rhythm with the cooling air. In a few short hours, the people will sleep, their dreams filled with fields and seeds and skies. But for now, they linger. Sitting on stone steps or leaning against wooden beams, they watch the sky darken, first lavender, then navy, then indigo. Winnowing has ended, and with it, another day of bread has begun. Morning light finds its way gently into the small grinding room, a modest open space tucked behind the main living area. Its walls are made of sun-baked mud brick, their surface warm to the touch. The air inside is cool and still, scented with dry grain and ancient dust. In one corner, 2 grinding stones sit in quiet permanence. The larger, lower stone, the saddle quern, is worn smooth in the center from years of use. It rests on a slab of limestone, tilted slightly forward. Above it lies a smaller oval-shaped stone, the handstone, curved to fit the palm. This is where bread begins. A woman enters slowly, carrying a shallow wooden bowl. Inside, pale yellow kernels, sun-dried and waiting. She kneels beside the stones with familiar grace. Her linen tunic rustles slightly as she adjusts her posture, legs tucked beneath her. She does not speak. No one does in this part of the house. It is understood that this work belongs to stillness. She pours a handful of grain onto the saddle stone. The kernels clink softly against its surface. With both hands, she takes up the handstone and begins to move it forward and back, forward and back. A rhythm begins. Not fast, not hard, just consistent, slow and deliberate. Forward, back, forward, back. The sound is soft and granular, like sand slipping through cloth. The grains crush gently beneath the stone's weight. At first, they split in 2, then again and again. Each pass transforms them further from seed to shard, shard to dust. The woman does not count the minutes. She does not measure the effort. She works until the sound changes, from sharp, gritty crackle to a softer hiss, like powder sweeping across slate. She adds more grain and continues. Grinding is not rushed. It cannot be. The goal is not speed, but fineness. Ancient Egyptian flour was often coarse, speckled with tiny fragments of stone. But still, the more finely ground it was, the better the dough, the smoother the bread. Children sometimes help. A girl of about 10 comes into the room. Her steps are light. She kneels beside her mother, mimicking the motion. Her smaller stone is lighter, her rhythm unsteady, but she is learning. And in the gentle silence, the 2 of them move in harmony. Forward, back, forward, back. Elsewhere, in another home, the same motion repeats. A different woman, a different pair of stones, but the same sound, the same rhythm. Across the village, this quiet labor binds everyone together, not with words, but with motion, with touch, with time. The sun climbs slowly in the sky. Shadows on the wall shift. Dust motes dance in the narrow beams of light falling through a small window. The flour collects in a shallow clay bowl set beside the stone. Pale, warm, soft to the touch. The woman dips her fingers into it, testing, feeling, sifting. When enough has gathered, she brushes it off the stone with a palm leaf, carefully, lovingly. She smiles slightly. This flour is not only for bread. Some of it may go into beer, another daily staple. Some may be saved for a festival loaf, baked in the shape of a fish or a bird. But most will become small, round cakes, eaten fresh or dried for storage. Simple food. Everyday food. The grinding continues. In wealthier homes, servants do the work, not out of cruelty, but because the household is large. Multiple grinding rooms operate at once, but the rhythm is the same. The motion is universal. No one escapes the stone. Even the wealthiest priest or scribe began life in a home where someone, somewhere, moved their arms forward and back. Outside, the day grows warmer. A rooster calls faintly. Donkeys bray in the distance. Life continues. But here, in the grinding room, time slows to a single motion. One that has remained unchanged for thousands of years. If you listen closely, you can hear the past in that sound. Forward, back, forward, back. The stone remembers every touch, every kernel, every quiet hour. When the work is finished, the flour is collected and set aside. The stones are wiped gently with a cloth, then left exactly as they were. No one speaks of gratitude, but everyone feels it. The flour will rest in its jar for now. Its time will come, soon, but not yet. Now the grinding is done. Outside, the sun has climbed high into the cloudless Egyptian sky. Shadows lie short beneath every tree and hut. The air is still, heavy with warmth, and the courtyard is quiet except for the soft shuffling of feet over stone. Inside a shaded room, a woman prepares for the next step. Her sleeves are rolled just above the elbow. Her hair is tied back with a simple linen cord. She moves with no urgency, just presence. She has done this hundreds of times. She will do it hundreds more. Before her sits a low, wide basin made of smooth-fired clay. The bowl is old, its sides stained with years of flour and water, its surface worn soft by use. It was made by her mother's mother. It may one day be passed to her daughter's hands. Beside the bowl is a small jug. It is filled with cool water drawn from the Nile at dawn. The clay walls of the jug sweat faintly in the heat, leaving a tiny ring of dampness on the stone bench. That water carries the river in it, the same river that flooded their fields, the same river that breathed life into every stalk of wheat. Now, gently, it will meet the flour. The woman reaches into a large jar nearby and scoops out a handful of flour. She does not measure. She knows by feel. The flour is poured into the clay bowl in a slow stream. It piles like soft dunes, pale gold under the slatted shade. With each handful, the bowl fills until the center forms a small hill. She pauses. With her fingers, she shapes a well in the center of the flour. A simple crater, wide and deep. This is the heart of the dough. Then, with a quiet motion, she lifts the jug and begins to pour. A slow trickle of water flows into the well, not all at once, just a little. The water darkens the flour, vanishing into the powder with a sigh. It smells of clay and minerals, of the Nile, and of time. With her right hand, she reaches into the bowl and begins to mix, fingers curling gently, lifting, folding. The flour begins to gather, turning from powder to paste, from loose grains to a single form. She adds more water, little by little, listening to the feel beneath her hands. No spoons, no tools, only skin, flour, and liquid. The dough forms slowly. At first it resists, sticky, clinging, stubborn, but the hands are patient. They fold and press, pull and turn, over and over, again and again. The texture begins to change. The stickiness fades. The dough starts to hold itself, a soft, pliant ball resting in her palms like something living. She presses with the heel of her hand, then folds. Presses, folds. It is not just mixing, it is coaxing, encouraging, shaping. The dough is not just a thing, it is a becoming. In another home, an old man mixes his own batch. He hums as he works, the melody low and familiar. It is a song his father sang when hands were young and wrists were strong. The song has no words, just rhythm. Press, fold, turn. Children gather at the door, watching in silence. They are too small to help yet, but they learn with their eyes. In wealthier homes, servants knead the bread for priests or scribes. The dough is richer there, with honey or herbs or dried fruit. But in the homes of farmers and workers it is plain, just flour, water, salt from the delta. But that simplicity is a kind of richness too. Back in the mixing room, the woman dips her hands into a small bowl of oil. She rubs it between her palms before touching the dough again. The oil keeps it from sticking and smooths the outer skin. A single strand of linen is used to cover the bowl. Not tightly, just enough to keep the dust out and the moisture in. The dough now rests. It does not rise quickly. There is no yeast as we know it, only wild yeast, present in the air, in the flour, in the water. It will take hours. The bread will be dense, a little sour, but it will nourish. She sets the bowl in a corner where the sun does not reach. There, the dough will breathe and change. And so, the woman washes her hands. She does not look at the bowl again. Not yet. She knows it will do what it must. Outside, the air shimmers with heat. But inside, in the mixing room, the walls are cool and silent. The dough sits like a sleeping child, and the room waits with it. The light has softened now. Outside, the sun begins its descent over the Nile, casting long shadows across the quiet courtyard. The heat of the day is no longer sharp but mellow, like an ember rather than a flame. In this hour, between labor and supper, the baking begins. The oven house sits at the edge of the family compound. It is simple, round and low, made of clay and straw, hardened over time by sun and smoke. The entrance is small, a curved opening like the mouth of a sleeping creature. Within, a domed chamber waits, dark and warm, lined with ash and memory. It is called a tannur, an oven built from the same earth it bakes for. Inside, the walls are blackened from years of use. The scent here is permanent: smoke, flour, ancient crust. It clings to every stone and breathes softly from the earth itself. A woman, perhaps the same one who mixed the dough hours before, opens the entrance. She stoops slightly, eyes adjusted to the dim glow. A small fire is already burning in the back of the oven, fed slowly all afternoon with palm fronds and dried dung cakes. The flame is not large. It does not roar. It breathes. The fire has its own rhythm, not unlike the rhythm of the grinding stones. Crack, hiss, flicker. Crack, hiss, flicker. She tends it with a stick, gently coaxing the embers toward the oven walls. Heat is gathered, not focused. There are no dials, no measurements. The woman knows the heat by scent, by the feel of the clay beneath her fingers, by how the smoke curls near the door. Nearby, the dough is ready. It has changed. Once tight and firm, it is now soft and airy, its surface smooth with the faintest rise. The linen is peeled back with reverence, like revealing something sacred. One by one, small pieces of dough are torn, weighed in the palm, then gently pressed into flat discs. Not round like a modern loaf, but oval, rustic, made to be eaten with fingers and passed between hands. She dusts a wooden paddle with flour and sets a flattened round upon it. Then, with a slow motion, she slides it into the oven, not onto a shelf, but onto the hot inner wall itself. The dough clings briefly, then holds. The oven is curved like a dome, and the bread bakes against it, supported by nothing but heat and gravity. The smell begins almost instantly. Warmth, sweetness, a faint nutty scent like grain in the sun. As the bread bakes, small bubbles appear in the surface, signs of the fermentation, the life within. The edges curl slightly. The color deepens from pale beige to golden brown. All around the oven mouth, a soft glow flickers. More loaves follow, each one shaped by hand. Each one slid into the oven with patience. She works quietly, almost in a trance. No timers, no alarms, just her senses, honed by years, telling her when to turn, when to pull, when to leave a little longer. Nearby, a child gathers the finished loaves and places them on a woven reed tray. The bread makes a faint sound as it cools, tiny pops and crackles as the crust contracts in the evening air, like the sound of leaves underfoot. Sometimes she bakes extra, to trade, to share, to store. Dried in the sun, it lasts for weeks. Rewarmed with water, it softens again. One particular loaf is shaped differently, round, with a small hole in the middle. This one is for the gods. It will be taken tomorrow to the small shrine at the edge of the village. A quiet offering, placed beside a carved figure with folded hands. Even bread, humble as it is, can be sacred. As the last loaf bakes, the woman sits beside the oven. The fire has shrunk to soft coals now. No more crackle, just red glow and the faint scent of finished work. She rubs her hands with oil, not for vanity, but to seal the flour into her skin, to soothe the joints. The sky outside turns deeper, shifting from rose to violet. In the far distance, frogs begin to sing near the water's edge. A single star appears over the horizon. The last loaf is pulled from the wall, and the paddle is set down. The baking is done. Not loudly, not suddenly, but gently. The fire may smolder for a while, warming the clay through the night. In the morning, the heat will still be there, faint and waiting, just like the memory of bread, lingering even after the last bite is gone. The bread is cooling on stone shelves, wrapped loosely in linen cloth. The air carries a scent, grain, ash, and warmth, the perfume of effort and earth. In the corner of the room, a family sits cross-legged on woven mats. There are no chairs, no tables, just hands passing food from one to the next, slowly, gratefully. A child tears a piece of flatbread and dips it into lentil stew. A mother hands a fig to her youngest. An elder, silent, closes their eyes with the first bite, as if in prayer. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. The work has been done. The flour is ground. The bread is baked. The meal is shared. And now the day fades into rest. In the sky, stars begin to multiply. The Milky Way, what Egyptians once called the Heavenly Nile, stretches above the rooftops. Cool air slips in through the cracks in the wall, brushing bare feet, fluttering linen curtains, lulling even the animals to stillness. Somewhere nearby, a dog curls against the doorway. A cat settles in straw. A clay lamp flickers, then dims. The world does not end. It simply quiets. And tomorrow, it will begin again, not with fanfare, but with the soft sound of hands gathering grain. Just as it always has. Just as it always will. So now, you may close your eyes. Let the dust of flour, the warmth of the oven, and the hush of distant water carry you, not into history, but into rest. Sleep well.